Thank you, gentlemen. I mean, I think it goes without saying that the Sixers need their MVP candidate back in the lineup in their 234 minutes with their big man on the court this postseason. They're outscoring opponents by 12.2 points per 100 possessions. Without him, that's been for 155 minutes, they're outscored by 9.3 points per 100 possessions. Certainly a swing. As we bring in our NBA champion, Kendrick Perkins is joining us now. All right, Perk. Let's say Embiid can clear concussion protocols and he can go tomorrow night in Game 3. If he's back on the court, what are the chances that Philly can win this series?
What are the chances of me actually getting back to my playing days weight? That's the chances. It's not a strong possibility, okay? Here's the thing, right? The 76ers may win one game. This series is ending in 5. And you want to know why? It's because of the defense of the Miami Heat and how they've been exploiting James Harden. Look, they're loading up boxes and elbows, taking away driving angles. They have multiple bodies to throw at him on the ball defense. He is struggling. I mean, he can't get past anybody. Tyler Hero might be their weakest defender. He can't even get past them. And let's just say Joel Embiid do come back for Game 3. I want y'all to think about this for the second. He's already banged up with his thumb, and now he's coming back with a mask on his face. He haven't played in about 5 or 6 days. He's not going to come back against Bam Adebayo and work some type of magic for the 76ers team. I think this series is over. The Sixers may get one game, and that's the max. They might get swept. This game is over. This series is over.
So the chances are ending in LY, right? Like, there's a possibility, but it is not likely, according to Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah.
Of course, that game tomorrow night, 7 Eastern, here on ESPN. K-Perk, let's take a look at the other Eastern Conference semi, that, of course, being the Celtics and the Bucks, all tied up in that series at a game apiece after Boston's dominant Game 2 performance. So you remember, it started with Giannis's triple-double, leading the Bucks to a road win in Game 1, and had all of us very petty media members going, oh my God, right away, Giannis without Chris Middleton does what the Nets can't do. And a whole series. And then it was all about Jaylen Brown in Game 2. Here's the teams looking ahead.
The main objective when you're the lower seed in any playoff series is to steal one. Not saying it was a moral loss on Tuesday, but we got one. So now the main objective is when you steal home court and you have home court, now it's our turn to protect home court.
As a competitor, to be able to go into somebody's home court and, take the life out of it is an awesome feeling. They came in, they did it here in Game 1. It's not going to be easy. We know that. When you go into that hostile environment, it's literally you and those 14 guys, coaching staff against everybody else. You got to go in and you got to be able to throw that punch first, knowing that, everybody's against you and you're going to have a battle.
Perk, I imagine this is such a hard game to scout because we've just seen boat races in both games, right? Like not a real competition either one, but what's one constant that you think could actually impact Game 3?
It's the Celtics, and it's their defense. I just talked about the Miami Heat, but the Celtics have the #1 defense. When you look at their starting 5, there's no other starting 5 that could do what they're doing to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, you could put Al Horford on them. You could put Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, even throw Marcus Smart in there when he's available. And then you have a rim protector in Robert Williams who's protecting the basket. And then all of a sudden you come in with this little bulldog off the bench of Grant Williams who's frustrating Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's, by the way, the best player in the NBA. But this Celtics defense, they play physical without playing ignorant. They get into you. They're tied on the string. And right now I'm looking at the way that they're playing against Giannis. Giannis is going to be in trouble for the rest of this series. He's going to struggle because these bodies are not going anywhere.
He has been. Giannis in this series missing more than 15 field goal attempts in back-to-back games. It's the first time in his career, regular or postseason, that's happened. Kendrick Perkins, you may not be at your playing weight, but I think you look great, man. Summertime fine. Thanks for
I appreciate it, Dale. I appreciate it.
Mark in goal. Now, Nets swingman Ben Simmons had surgery on his back, but is expected to be ready for training camp, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, Simmons didn't play at all last season after a dispute that ultimately led to his trade, and then ultimately the bad back. Now, Grizzlies forward Dylan Brooks, he will be suspended, but just for one game for his flagrant foul on Warriors guard Gary Payton II in Game 2. Payton fell hard, fractured his elbow. Game 3 is Saturday.
Yeah, let's stay right there in the NBA. We have no games today, which I think is a good time to sort of reset, take a breath, and remind you what's happening in the semifinal series. The top-seeded Suns have taken a 2-0 lead on the Mavs. Teams with a 2-0 lead in a best-of-7 series have won the series 92% of the time, and the Grizzlies and Warriors all tied up. You just heard Taylor mention Game 3 is on Saturday. Winners in a best-of-7 series tied at 1 have gone on to win 74% of such series. As we take a look at the East, the Heat lead the Sixers 2-0. Miami's won all 16 of their best-of-7 playoff series with a 2-0 lead, and the Celtics and Bucks could be in a slugfest. They're knotted up at 1. Here to talk shop is our NBA reporter, Brian Windhorst, who's joining us now. Windy, we know the Sixers, they're down 2-0. They don't have Joel Embiid. He's been sidelined with that orbital fracture and a mild concussion. He's currently listed as out for Game 3. Windy, what hurdles does he have to clear to be in consideration to be on the court tomorrow in Philly?
Yeah, so he hasn't cleared the concussion protocol yet, so he can't be listed as anything but out. This is more of a issue related to that issue as opposed to the orbital fracture. So if he is able to follow the steps and clear concussion protocol on Friday, and he's okay playing in that mask, I still think there's a decent chance that he's going to get out there for Game 3. You don't want to assume anything with concussion symptoms, but even though it says out on the injury report, there is still that glimmer, and maybe even hope that he would be able to get out there for what has got to be a must-win game for the Sixers on Friday night.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? Like, he's played in a mask before in the playoffs because of an orbital fracture, but the concussion was not at play. There are a number of other key injuries impacting upcoming Game 3s, Wendy, so I want you to take us through them and start with Celtics guard Marcus Smart and that right quad contusion.
Yeah, here we go. So Marcus Smart said today that he got hit in the exact same spot on the same leg that caused him to miss several games back in January. He's still dealing with mobility issues, but believes that after a couple more days of working through it that he could play on Saturday's afternoon's Game 3. He's definitely going to travel with the team up there, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's back out there. Then you've got some news on the Kyle Lowry front. He is upgraded by the Heat to questionable, traveled with the team up to Philadelphia today, and if he has no setbacks before Friday's Game 3, I would expect to see him back in the starting lineup. He may have some limited on minutes, but a huge boost to the Heat if Lowry is able to go. And then a glimmer of an update on Chris Middleton. He is now 2 weeks off of that knee injury. He is going to be out for Games 3 and 4, but according to Coach Mike Budenholzer, after that, we'll see. What does that "will see" mean? I'm not sure about that, Al. He's still not doing any significant court work, but making progress 2 weeks off that injury.
Yeah, certainly we saw it last year, how much they relied, especially in late game situations, on that Middleton and Giannis pick and roll. Missing that, we'll see that series evened up after the Celtics rolled. Brian Windhorst with the latest on the NBA. Thanks, Wendy. We're not done, though. Much more ahead on Joel Embiid status for Game 3.
Welcome back to SportsCenter. Down 2-0 to Miami in their playoff series. There is little to no hope that the Sixers can get back in this series as they return home. Or is there a glimmer of hope? Because obviously there's news that Embiid is trying to make a return to Game 3 with an orbital fracture and a torn thumb. Doc Rivers is all fronts the problem.
We got great shots. Since there's a lot of analytical people out there in the world, it was our 12th best shots of the year, which means we didn't make shots, but we got great shots. And I believe in the guys we play on the floor that they can make them over the long haul. The game, when you look at it, came down to the three-point line in a lot of ways. They made theirs, we missed ours. But I do think the passes were on time, the shots were good shots, and as a coach, you got to live with that.
The Sixers have missed their opportunities to win, and now they find themselves in that 2-0 hole. But the Mavs are in a similar hole, and Caesars gives them both an 8-1 shot to come back and win their respective series. Which team has a better chance?